Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We are Baltimore positive, and we are still doing Requiem on the Orioles. Every single day it feels like they lose. I hope by the time we get to Coco's on Wednesday and have our crab melts, they're winning. We will have the Back to the Future scratch-offs. We had a very lucky batch, really nice conversations at Cooper's North in Mace Chapel on Wednesday. Had Nick Schultz join me, also Terry Beck. My dear friend Bill Cole came by. We talked about a whole bunch of different things. So hopefully you're checking that out, as well as Pete Ramundi, one of our insurance agents here, who gave some great advice about reviewing where you are. Luke and I are going to review Wednesday night, which different than Tuesday night, different than Sunday, different than last Friday. Boy, they're finding creative ways to lose. I mean, it's a holiday week here. We got the draft. I know we'll all be tuckered in or tuckered out, or we'll find out what the mark is on Andrews, and we'll find out who they want. But I mean, you get a close game, you get a well-pitched game. Allegedly, it wasn't great in the beginning, but 4-3 games, dude, they have to win those. Those are the ones they have to win.
No question about it. And it's something that you and I have sparred about a little bit here over the first 4 weeks of the season where, so much focus has been on the starting pitching, and understandably so. They have the worst rotation in baseball right now. I'm not going to sit here and say it's been good enough, but on Wednesday night, that was the fifth time this season the Orioles have lost when they've allowed four or fewer runs. They're 6-5 when they've allowed four or fewer runs. That's not how this team's constructed to win baseball games. So we can keep hammering the starting rotation, and we will many nights. But on Wednesday night, Tomoyuki Sagano, trouble in the first inning, gives up two home runs. It's 3-0. You're saying, oh my goodness, here we go again. But he gave them 7 innings. He was very competitive. It wasn't dominant. I mean, he had one strikeout. I think he only had four swings and misses. I mean, he's not going to be that guy that's
Yeah, it's
going to
still who he
overwhelm
is,
you.
right? I mean, he's
But
pitching to contact, that guy.
but he's now given them two back-to-back starts where he's gone seven. I mean, you'll take that. You'll do cartwheels over that relative to what you've been getting from other guys in this rotation.
Becomes money well spent for Mr.
No
Rubenstein.
question. I mean, for as much as the Morton deal has been an utter disaster, and there's no nice way of sugarcoating it, Sagano's been fine. I'm not saying he's going to win the Cy Young, but he's been pretty good. And the last two times out, he's been quite good. But they go 1 for 12 with runners in scoring position, and they leave 12 men on base, and they didn't hit the ball. And it was against a soft tossing Trevor Williams, right? A right-hander. They've hit right-handers for the most part. They didn't do that Wednesday night. So look, it was a more competitive game. I mean, are we really at the point now where we're speaking in those terms? Look, they're 9-14. This is a bad baseball team until they prove otherwise. I mean, I'm tired of sitting here trying to say, well, what about this or what? They're playing bad baseball, and while it wasn't as bad Wednesday night, it's still a loss. And this is a team that can't get any traction. I think back to a week ago at this time when they win their first series. They win back-to-back games for the first time. They've lost 4 of 5 since then. So every time you think, hey, something that a feather in your cap, something to be encouraged by, then they just slip right back into this. I looked at it the other day, Nestor. Right now, and we know the Orioles have only won two in a row once, and they've only done that. They haven't won more than two in a row at any point. There are two other teams in baseball you can say that about: the Chicago White Sox and the Colorado Rockies, who are the two undisputed worst teams in baseball right now. That's the company they're keeping right now with how this season is
Well,
going.
look at the
So,
pitching. Look at the numbers. I mean, you're a numbers guy, through all this. You know what numbers I look at? I look at the weekend and I look at next week and I see where they are at 5 under. And we're all going to be on the draft Thursday night into Friday and Saturday. You'll have everybody informed on the WNST Tech Service, brought to you by Cole Roofing and Gordian Energy. Um, Tough pitcher on Thursday night. Then they're going to go to Detroit. They're going to see Scooble. Then the Yankees are coming in next week. I don't know, man. It's not like people are flocking down to the ballpark. I wrote my letter to Katie Griggs. I hope everyone reads my letter to Katie Griggs in regard to all of it, because I've been relative. People act like I write FU letters to these people every day. It's, once or twice a year. Yeah, I come off the top rope, just professionally and my anger is far deeper than anything you've read. Anything you read, I'm madder than whatever the writing is. But they're coming back to face the Yankees next week, and they're not going to have rotational edges in any way. They don't go into most games in the old Vegas board when you put up who the starting pitcher is. They don't go into most games factoring to be a favorite unless the bats are out. And even on Wednesday night, Holiday couple hits, Rutschman couple hits, right? Mullins still a couple hits. I mean, Holiday almost got picked off. Umpire thought he was picked off, but that sort of opened the inning up a little bit for them. And they've had innings where a double down the line, and I hear Brian Roberts rooting for them. By the way, the broadcasts are horrible too. Brian's just not great. I love Brian, but he's not great. He's not entertaining. Certainly not in that way. But he, double down the line, and we're in this, and then they tie the game in the eighth inning and still lose.
Yeah, and I mean it's just not good enough. It's not good enough. Their starting pitching is horrendous, and their offense. The best way I could describe their offense is painfully mediocre and inconsistent. I mean, they're not like last in the league in scoring runs, right? So I hesitate to say the offense is
Well, they have
lousy,
potential. We
but
look at all these guys and see what their ceiling is.
I'm tired of saying that. I mean, I
Yeah.
really am. I mean, at some point in time, and look, everyone's accountable. Mike Elias is accountable. Brandon Hyde's probably going to lose his job if this season doesn't turn around. I mean, just, and I'm not saying that with any intel. I'm saying that with just knowing how this works. When you have a team that underperforms or is perceived to underperform to a dramatic degree, you can't fire the entire roster. The general manager doesn't go before the manager. So, and
Well,
I'm not
maybe in the
saying that's
new
him.
ownership structure he does. I don't know. I mean, again, this is a guy who knows nothing about baseball that's put himself in front of the brand that has 15,000 bobbleheads in people's houses right now. He's a bit of a wild card for me, all the way around, all the way
I
around.
mean, that's
I
fair,
mean,
but
he's kept all the Angelos people. Greg Bader's name's still on this Masson thing this week to give him a pat on the back if they're going to throw him out. I don't know. He might be there for life. I've been told I'll get my press pass back when he's gone. We'll see. I don't know. They haven't made wholesale changes in any way, which I'm bringing all of this up because it is the story. I'm not the story. I'm a part of the story because they're still banning media members. They're still playing bad baseball. We're talking about firing the manager. We don't even know what the appetite for the owner is for any of this. Or he can't really have an appetite for any of this because he doesn't really know anything about any of this. And Katie Griggs is new to the party. She's trying to sell things. They got the Star Wars television ad that's running that looks like, dude, you and I could go in a basement right now and make a better television commercial than whatever that is with no budget, with no nothing. I watch all of the pieces, broadcasters, the broadcasts, the pitching coach, the hitting coach, the losses, the empty stadium, the just all the way around. I mean, just all of it. It's all below the bar. It's all no good, and it's complete. Look, the old thing. I knew what that was. I gauged that 20 years ago. It was a goofy old man. It was just going to make a whole bunch of money. He went off to sleep, put his kids in that good looking son. I mean, I've followed this thing for 30 years. I don't know what Rubenstein's going to do because you got the manager on the ropes. The fans have the manager on the ropes. Everybody hates the general manager now. Didn't make good deals, didn't use Mr. Rubenstein's money well. That's what they're telling Mr. Rubenstein. I mean, uh, I don't know. It's like the NIL. It's off the rails. I don't know exactly how this is going to go. I just know this isn't a good baseball team. And I'm getting to be with you. It's April. I'm not crazy, but I had Allen on this week. I don't know anybody thinks there's any rescue coming for this franchise right now in regard to pitching.
I mean, there's some. Look, Eflin's not going to be gone 3 months. I mean, great. They gave a positive update on Grayson Rodriguez. I mean, I'll believe that when I see it in terms of whether this is actually truly a mild lat strain. I believe they used similar language last August, and he didn't pitch again. So, but Gibson's right. Gibson's going to be here very soon. Um, Kyle Bradish second half of the season at some point, but they've got to get there, right? They've got to. That's why I said they've got to find a way for their starting pitching to at least be not so bad that they are able to tread water and if you can hover around 500, because we know looking at the makeup of the American League, even the last couple years, let alone what you think it is this year, regardless of the Yankees in first place in the AL East, you look at the rest of the AL, I don't think the three wild card spots are going to be 95 win teams. So it really is a matter of, and I'm being pragmatic about this. I'm not saying this in terms of I have a lot of optimism based on what I'm seeing from this team because I don't. I think you can hear it in my voice that I don't. But can you find a way to stabilize your rotation enough, knowing it's still going to be below average, knowing it's still not going to be a strength for your baseball team, but that you can get enough productivity, enough decent starts that you have a chance to win? And then in concert, can they swing the bats and start scoring runs at a level that we think we thought they were capable of doing? If they can do that, and then you can hang around 500, give or take a couple games, and get to June and you're in that spot, and you might not be sitting in a wild card spot, but you're at least within striking distance, then yeah, this could become more interesting in terms of having some reinforcements on the way. But man, we're talking in these terms and it's April 24th, right? We're a month out from Memorial Day. And it's not just that we're 23 games into this thing. I wrote about I wrote at baltimorepositive.com that that this team going into Wednesday night had 140 games to go. That can either be a blessing because you have so much time to turn the page and make everyone look back at these first 4 weeks and say, wow, that was really bad. Good thing they turned it around. Or you can look at it as an abyss of saying, oh my gosh, we've got 140 games to get through this when our pitching is a disaster and our offense has been underwhelming. And I'm not sure the coaches really know how to do anything to get these guys out of it. And your offseason moves haven't worked out, other than Sagano, I suppose. Uh, that it's a blessing or a curse. It's a blessing to turn the page, or you're staring at the abyss of, man, you've got 5 months of this, and if this thing is truly broken, then boy, that's a long time. That's a long time to be talking in terms of playing out the string or asking what you're going to do at the trade deadline, maybe selling off a couple pieces. I mean, it's very unsettling. That's the best way you can put it because they're just they're not exhibiting any semblance of play that suggests they're a good baseball team right now. I mean, their bullpen, and I get it. Soto gave up a run in the ninth or the bottom of the eighth. By the way, really got hosed on that. Should have been a strike three call to James Wood. I mean, maybe Washington doesn't score there, and you've got a chance to then have a chance to take the lead. But that said, they didn't score. They didn't score with runners in scoring position. They didn't take advantage. So it's hard for me to make the umpire the headline because he's not. Uh, you know, you need to be better and to not have those situations come back and bite you. So, but you just look at this team right now, and what do you really like about it in terms of what we're actually seeing? Not potential or hype or guys that were top 100 prospects. I mean,
I
let's
like
go.
the potential.
Cedric
That's what I
Mullins has
like.
been great. Cedric Mullins has been fantastic. Ryan O'Hearn, 0 for 3 on Wednesday night, but he's had a really good season.
By the way, Cedric Mullins came up to lay down a bunt. He laid down a perfect bunt that rolled foul and then struck out on two pitches. Like, with two runners on. You know what I mean? Like, Brian Roberts, like, I don't think they sent them up there to bunt. It's
I mean, things.
listen. Yesterday we're talking about lefties versus lefties and righties versus righties and how Sig Meidel's blackjack, and they ripped that up, and you know they're doing unorthodox things here. Is I guess is what I'm saying, and an old baseball line. If Lou Baker is here, they're pressing. They're pressing Lou.
Oh, no question. But look, I'm going to keep this simple. I'm going to use batting average. I'm not going to even use OPS or StatCast stats saying that they're doing better. That guys are hitting the ball better than what the outcomes are. Gunnar Henderson's hitting 212. Adley Rutschman's hitting 214. Ryan Mountcastle's slugging 338 with a 239 average. I mean, that's your first baseman. Tyler O'Neill's hitting 215 after striking out 3 times. I mean, there's your big offseason addition. Heston Kjerstad has been better since the first couple weeks of the season. So that's at least been somewhat encouraging, even if not completely, that you're convinced. Jordan Westbrook's hitting 190. Jackson Holliday's hitting 234. I mean, these are all the guys we've talked about for years, and they're not performing. So as much as people want to get ticked at Brandon Hyde's lineups or who's playing when or what the order is or who he's bringing out of the bullpen, I mean, these are the guys that this rebuild was. They were the foundation, right? They didn't draft pitching. They drafted those guys. And what
Well,
are
if
you
the
getting?
Ravens players that they pick don't work, right? If
Yeah,
Lamar's no good, Harbaugh was fired years ago, probably DaCosta with him, right?
sure,
So
sure.
like there is a point with the Ravens, and we judge them. We wake up every year in November and they're competitive, and no matter what we say about them on draft day, before, during, and after, and their free agency, the players they get to the field. Roquan Smith, you thought they gave him too much money, he can still play, right? Kyle Hamilton, not enough money, but he can play, right? Marlon Humphrey, when he's healthy, he can play. Wiggins still out, he can play. So we look at them and say they have playoff potential. We look at them off season with changes, offensive line, whatever they're going to do. This team here, we've talked about these guys as long as we've talked about any of those guys, right? I mean, Lamar came in right around. I mean, Kerrstat was after that, but some of these young guys, they've been on our tongues 5, 6, 7 years. If you go
Yeah,
Mountcastle and Mullins, more than that, right? But Brandon Hyde lost all of these games. He lost the 24-2 games. We were asleep 6 years ago. He's been here through all of that. This has been a long period in any era in baseball to have a general manager and a manager together. And the reason they've been together is you always talk about that linear improvement. Now, it hadn't been linear last year. They took a step backwards last year, but this thing every minute started to churn when Rutschman came up and the promise started to happen, and Westberg turned out all right at the beginning of last year, and the pitching was phenomenal 2 summers ago. Like, this thing looked like it was moving in the right direction, and it's amazing how fast it skidded off the road.
yeah.
It's unbelievable.
No question. And look, some of what you mentioned, I mean, it's different sports. I mean, it's apples to oranges in terms of knowing that, some of these guys, in the case of Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holiday, I mean, they're drafted out
But
of
when
high
your
school,
first
right?
round picks
But
stink, you get fired. Ask Joe
no
Douglas.
question, no
Yes.
question. And look, I mean, these guys have to perform. And in the case of Adley Rutschman and in the case of Gunnar Henderson and even Jordan Westberg, who was really, really good. I mean, we were talking about him in terms of, okay, other than Gunnar Henderson, was Jordan Westberg their second best player last
Dude,
year
I
before
gave
he
him
got
Jonathan
hurt?
Scopes money
Yeah,
last summer.
yeah. So it's not as though you're viewing these through the lens of they're just failures, right? I mean, the only one of that group I just mentioned who hasn't performed for a prolonged period of time yet is Jackson Holiday, and he's also by far the youngest of that group. But and Kerstad, but we also know Kerstad's, that's been a different, you
They
know,
haven't let him play.
well, he hasn't been on the field, right? I mean,
Right. I mean, if
myocarditis
if
and the
Kerstad,
hamstring a couple years
I'll
ago.
judge him at the All Star break
Sure.
if they let him play next 10 weeks.
And he's playing and he's shown some signs. I'm not fully convinced, but he's at least shown some signs. I mean, he's slugging 453. That's way more than Ryan Mountcastle right now, who's also a power hitter.
Well, I
So
had Alan McCallum on this week, and he said Kerstad or Mayo, one of these guys has to be a superstar. One of these guys has to replace Santander's, has to be a
yeah,
30 home run guy in the next 2 years. And if they're playing now, they have to at least look like they're on the pace to be that guy, because that's going to replace Mountcastle. That's when the Tyler O'Neill thing expires. That's where they're buying cheap on these young players and penciling all of them in for being way better than 214 right now.
yeah, yeah. And look, if you're looking for reasons why to not lose all hope, that's what you kind of point to. I mean, Gunnar Henderson in 2023 and 2024 was a rookie of the year and a very serious MVP candidate in a world where Aaron Judge doesn't exist, right? I mean, that's what you're talking about there. So I don't suddenly buy that, oh, well, this is who he is. He's struggling. And obviously he had a disrupted spring. But hey, you've got to get going. You're healthy, right? I mean, if you're healthy, then you've got to perform. If you're not healthy, and that kind of brings us to Jordan Westberg, in that same light. They've alluded to him being banged up. It's like, okay, are you truly healthy enough to play? Then you need to perform. If not, then you need to be on the IL, right? I mean, it's just
Well, then Urias and Mateo come in, and we talk about they're not good enough, right?
but hey,
Injured players aren't good enough either.
we say
Yes.
Arias isn't good enough. He's batting 300 right now. And maybe he should be playing a little bit more. And I'm not saying. Let me be very clear. When I say that, that is not me saying any of these other young guys should be benched. But
By the way, Jim Palmer said that the other night. And when Jim Palmer stands up and says we like to see more of him in the lineup, like I hear that when I
I
hear
mean, he
Jim
doesn't
Palmer
hit for a
saying
lot
that.
of power. So I'm not. Again, this is not me saying Ramon Arias should be playing 5 or 6 times a week, but it has. He is someone that of their bench guys right now. Think about it. They're normal bench players. So you're talking Gary Sanchez, Jorge Mateo, Ramon Laureano, and Arias. Of those four, who do you want up there taking in at bat at this point in time if you need one? It's
Urias.
Ramon Arias easily. So, so there you go. Even though Laureano swung the bat better the last 10 days or so. But anyway, it still comes back to the young core. I mean, this was all built on them succeeding and not just succeeding, but being really good and a couple of them being MVP type players. And you thought you had that with Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson. And, Gunnar, I'm still, I'm not worried about Gunnar. Rutschman, he's hit the ball better, harder this year, more consistently, but because StatCast gives us data like that. At the same time, I do wonder if part of the problem of this team is you do have StatCast data and they do have these expectations that they're going to be better. And, I'm not saying you should be down on yourself completely. At the same time, is there enough urgency here or is this team just complacent? Because they were so good 2 years ago, did this team become too complacent? And did the front office become too smart for their own good? I don't know. I'm asking the question because this is a long time now, a very long time now where this team has been a sub 500 baseball team. It's not just the first 23 games of 2025. It's going back to late June of last year. And something just feels very, well, I don't want to say very, something just feels off. And you can be the smartest front office with analytics and technology and all kinds of cutting edge data to help drive your instruction, your player development, your strategy. But at the same time, the human element is always there. Even if you can't quantify it, the human element exists. And I'm sorry, with this looking the way it does, it's hard not to think that there's something missing here, whether it's something on the coaching side, whether it's the absence of another veteran player or two who one would be would give leadership, but also, you know, I'm not saying bring in veterans for the sake of veterans. They got to be able to play. I look at those things and I just, what is missing here? And that's those are some of the possibilities I keep coming back to at this point. But they've just in the meantime, but they've got to find ways to win. They were much younger 2 years ago. Talking about the core players, those guys were younger 2 years ago than they are now, right? Captain Obvious, no duh. So I can't. I reject they're young. I'll hear it on Jackson Holiday. The rest of these guys, you got to play.
You know
I
who
mean,
else is young? Mize, Joby, and Scooble, the guys they're going to see this weekend,
sure. Well,
right?
I mean, Adley Rutschman is 27 years old. That's not young in baseball terms. That's not certainly not young for a catcher. I mean, we talk about catchers when they get to 30, and you say, oh, he's a little long in the tooth. Does he have another position he's going to play? And he's hitting in the low 200s right now. I mean, this was
Well,
supposed to
the
be your
now is
savior.
here,
Yeah,
right? I mean, it is for all of these
it has to
players,
be.
and that's why we spent 6 months talking about it. That's why everybody we spoke to in the offseason as a baseball person was
Was underwhelmed.
underwhelmed by their pitching
Yep.
additions and saying it's here, it's now. And we're getting owner bobbleheads and awful pitching, and no appreciable change or sort of front-facing part of enthusiasm. I go back to when not Lee McPhail, Andy McPhail. I do go back to Lee McPhail, but Andy McPhail did that Coogee sweater,
The
thing.
red sweater. Yeah, I remember that.
Remember the red sweater,
Yeah.
video of we need to do better, we must do better. I mean, seemed like that might have been his idea. I don't know if it was Peter's idea at the time because Peter couldn't hand out a bobblehead, that's for sure. Rubenstein's ahead of him in that way. Nobody put the bobbleheads in guillotines. So, but I would say the front facing part of all of this is the general manager doesn't want to stand up. Katie Griggs is hiding from me and everybody else, and nobody knows who she is. They've got the owner out in front of him, but he can't talk about baseball because he doesn't know anything about it. So I just keep going back to the Yankees are coming to town next week. They're trying to sell tickets. They're trying to sell streaming. They're trying to get people into the soap opera, not frustrate the people that are in it already or piss them off in some way. Um, I don't know. They're going to play again tonight. They're going to play again tomorrow. They're going to play all weekend. It's not like the Ravens where we're going to beat this draft up and we're going to wait 5 months
Yeah.
before they play. They're going to play baseball. They have to go out every night and pitch, and they have to go every night and hit against all of these young pitchers that are blossoming in Detroit, blossoming in Washington. We'll see about New York when they get there. They're blossoming in first place. So this is a really bad week for them in a lot of ways moving forward. I'm not talking about what's already happened to them with 24-2 and like losing games, not hitting the ball. This is like a week here where they're going to see buzzsaw pitching and they're going to see the best. A 1-6 bird here this upcoming week would really bury them, man. And I am worried about the body language, the fact that they hit themselves back into the game and still lost it. I don't even care if it was a bad call or not on Soto.
Right.
All the mojo, all the mustard here, they got to play 500 ball this week just to stay 5 under. And it's going to be hard to play 500 ball when they go into every night facing better pitchers, and especially as you know, when the pitcher happens to be left-handed.
Yeah. I mean, that's, they can find themselves completely buried. I mean, 5 games under 500 is not impossible in a vacuum to climb out of. Far from it, right? I mean, we understand that, but you start looking at it through the lens of forget about what's happened. What are you going to do over the next 139 games? Where do you need to be over the next 139 games? And that's where you look at it right now in the short term, knowing that Eflin's not returning this weekend, and knowing that Grayson Rodriguez, who the heck knows? Bradish is still months away. I mean, and yeah, you've got Mackenzie Gore, who's been fantastic, another lefty in the finale here, and that you mentioned Scooble in Detroit, and I mean this. You don't want to find yourself 9 games under 500 a week from now, and right now this is very unsettling where they are. I mean, they're not good enough. They haven't been good enough in any phase, really. I mean, the bullpen's been pretty good, but how many high leverage situations is the bullpen even getting? Because they haven't been winning games, right? They haven't been in a position to protect 1 or 2 run leads late in games. So, it's just this, as I said, there's a long way to go. It's late April. We all understand that, but at some point in time, you need to start seeing some signs that this thing's getting better. And I'm just not sure about that right now, Nestor.
He is Luke Jones. He will be monitoring all things NFL draft as well as baseball. It is a busy, busy sports weekend. If there's any breaking news, you'll get it on the WNST Tech Service. Brought to you by Cole Roofing and Gordian Energy. It's free to sign up. It's easy to sign up. Ask around on the internet. Ask Katie Griggs. I told her in the letter how good our tech service is, because we're following these teams seriously, including you have anything you want to say to pile onto the draft with Tucker and Andrews? We've talked for months and months. We haven't even done like an hour-long piece this week because not much has happened, man.
Yeah, no question. I mean, obviously, you just mentioned Mark Andrews, Justin Tucker. I've seen a couple things out there, and I've thrown this out there just casually speaking. Adafe always making a lot of money this year, and it's his 5th-year option. And I'm not convinced that he's the kind of player the Ravens are going to marry long term. So
Third
I
round
know
pick. What do you
I
want for
saw
him?
Adam Schefter. I mean, look, you're talking about 1 year of control for someone. I'm not saying you give him away. Again, he's double-digit sacks last year. But if there's a move to be made where you can move up the board, swap picks, something along those lines, and Adafe Owe is expendable, and you draft an edge guy, with that spot or with that pick that you get, then not saying it's likely. I think it's possible. I've spitballed that idea, a couple times over the course of the offseason, but I know Adam Schefter made mention of that in passing in some of his pre-draft notes. And, so I'm not expecting that, let's be clear, but if that happens, I think that's, the kind of move that we've seen the Ravens make on occasion where they identify someone like Hollywood Brown a few years ago, where they said, we like the player, he's good, but he's not so good that we're going to extend and give him the money the market would dictate. So let's move that for a more controllable asset then, which ended up being Tyler Linderbaum in that case. So, we'll see if something like that happens. But yeah, there's all eyes on what's going to happen with Mark Andrews. What's going to happen in terms of day 3? Do they draft a kicker? If they do they cut Justin Tucker? Do they have some kind of competition, or do they not draft a kicker? And then we're looking at that differently. So lots to go on, and lots going on. And obviously picking 27th overall, you're hoping the Ravens can come away with a player that, even if they're not going to start day one, someone that's going to contribute in a meaningful way from day one. That's what you're looking for there, obviously.
Josh Simmons, Tyler Booker, Kelvin Banks, Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant. I mean, everybody's got them mocking linemen somehow.
I mean, it depends where you look. Malachi Starks, the safety from Georgia, has been mentioned a lot as a possibility. I mean, let's face it, they have some needs. Do they have any needs where you say, oh my goodness, we have to draft that position and that guy needs to start day one?
They
Maybe
draft
not.
players, not position anyway,
Right.
right?
Well,
Like, and
but
that's
but my
when if
point
they
is,
move up the board,
but
it's
that's
because somebody
good.
really fell.
But that's good. You don't want to be in a position where you must draft a certain position because that generally doesn't work out for you. That's when you draft Brashad Perriman. That's when you draft Matt Elam, right? So yeah, they're in a position where yeah, they absolutely need to add an edge. They need to add a safety. They need to add offensive linemen. They need to add defensive linemen. But are any of those one spots where if you don't do it 27th overall, where you say, oh my goodness, they're in trouble there? Not really. They're in a position where they don't have any necessarily drastic needs. They have 3 or 4 positions where you say, yeah, they really they need to add there, but if it's not the first round, the second round's fine, the third round's fine. So and that's where you want to be. You don't want to be in a position where you must draft at a certain spot because again, that's where you reach. That's where you end up getting someone that more often than not ends up not being as good as you hoped.
All right, we'll be up all night, watching baseball, watching football draft here all weekend. He is Luke. I am Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore positive.